Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The ulama have mentioned that if the wali prevents his daughter or the person that he has got guardianship over in marriage, and there is no real reason for it, there is no real religious reason for it, then the guardianship is then moved on to somebody else. Why? The guardian has to act in the best interest, excuse me, of the one that he is guardian over. Okay? That basically means that he must have knowledge and he must be trustworthy. Trustworthy in the sense that he is just, trustworthy in the sense that he is able to fulfill the guardianship that he has been then entrusted with. If the person is making poor decisions, and obviously those decisions are going to affect the ability to act in the best interest of the one that he is guardian over, then the ulama have said that he moves over. And there are hadith, etc. We don't want to get into all of that now. We try to keep this brief as possible. So the ulama have mentioned, if the wali is not doing his job, he hasn't got a religious reason as to why this girl or the person that he's guardian over shouldn't get married to the person that she thinks is, suitable, then it moves over. And this is well known. And to be honest, you will even find this on websites, etc. And I feel a lot of brothers and sisters use this to say, right, okay, if your dad's not listening, let's just go somewhere else. Let's just go to the Islamic Center and get it done. That is completely wrong. And it's not the correct understanding as to what you'll find in these ahadith as well as in the books of fiqh. This now becomes your right. Yeah, if your father is saying, look, I don't want you to get married to him because he's the wrong skin color, or I don't want you to get married to him because he's from a different culture. That is not a religious reason, right? So now it becomes your right to question why are you saying this? Because look, he's religious, he's got good akhlaq, he's stable, financially stable, mentally stable, etc. I want to get married to him. We get on with each other, etc. So why are you stopping me? This is what the girl or the person who is under the guardianship, and it's not a nice way of putting it, but under the guardianship has. She can say, listen, I think we need to have a discussion now because I don't agree with your judgment. It then becomes her right then to say, okay, well, if he's not going to be my wali correctly, then I'm going to move it on to the next paternal relative. And the ulama have given a list, and again, we don't want to go into all of that right now. Father, then grandfather, then son, and then brother, etc. The point that I'm making here, though, is that, listen, 9 times out of 10, the person who is the wali is the father. Okay, the ulama have said this has to then be understood with the rights that you give to your parents. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, be good and dutiful to your parents. We have to match up these evidences which talk about the wali who has to be upright and just with the evidences which talk about us being obedient to our parents, with the evidences which talk about sealing the ties of kinship. وَيَقْطَعُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people of nifaq and kufr. They used to break the ties of kinship. So how do then we do it? So what I will say, what you need to do is then be patient with your wali. Continue talking to him and don't break off with that. Don't, issue ultimatums. Don't become aggressive. Be patient. Be patient. And obviously sometimes sometimes people rush into marriage, and I would say it's very important that people deliberate. They get to see the situation, spend some time to get to know each other in an Islamic manner. And sometimes this could take months, and there is no harm in that, I would say. So if a person has found someone, the wali initially is saying no, be patient with the wali. Explain the situation to the wali. Explain the situation to other family members so that they can speak to the wali. Maybe go to see the imam of the masjid who has an influence over the wali. So now the person needs to look at it from different angles and approach the wali in that manner, because you need to preserve the respect and love and connection that you have with the wali, if he is your father especially. So this is the answer to my to the question here. This is my answer to your question here. I would say, if your father, which I think is the situation here, if the wali has not given a religious reason, then that is not legitimate. I just want to mention here, though, as well, sometimes the religious reason can then be confused with a worldly reason. Okay, so for example, the ulama mentioned in the books of fiqh also, cousins should not get married to each other. First cousins should not get married to each other. Why? Because if there is a breakdown in the relationship, this could then affect family ties. It could affect, so you got two siblings. If their offspring get married and there's an issue there, that could affect the relationship between offsprings and parents, as well as siblings to one another, as in, the parents. I think you get the idea. And it could even then affect the relationship with grandparents, perhaps. So some of the ulama have said first they shouldn't just get married to each other. I mean, there is no harm in it. We find many examples from the seerah and the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu, but it's not been reckoned by this. So now, if you go to your wali and say, look, I want to get married to my cousin, my first cousin. We've known him for ages, all my life. We know each other. I've seen him. He's seen me before. We were adults. And I think we get along, and I think it would be nice if we get married. And the wali says, no, you are not marrying my my brother's son or my sister's daughter, whatever it might be. Is this a religious reason or is this a non-religious reason? The ulama have mentioned if the wali is acting in the best interest of the one that he is guardian over, then that has to be taken into consideration. So imagine a boy comes to you and he says, I want to get married, but he hasn't got a stable job, right? He's working, in a job which is a 0-hour contract or something like that. The wali says no. The girl might say, well, no, that's not acceptable. He's practicing, he's got good akhlaq, he prays, he's got a job. But the wali might have a bit more foresight as to why he is saying no. So sometimes the judgment of the wali might be seen as non-Islamic, but in actual fact, it is in line with the Sharia. So this is why I would say, if the girl is not happy with the judgment of the wali, there is no harm in her speaking to her father. This is not disrespect if you ask and you question with akhlaq and manners and ask for the hikmah and the wisdom. There is no harm in that at all whatsoever. So that's what I would say. As in, I know this has been very lengthy and I apologize, but this is a really important point, and I think this this clip would benefit a lot of people, because it is a question which is quite often asked. Can I just break off from my wali? I'll say no, that's not the case. Spend some time, explain the situation to him, use whatever you have from the means that you have to get through to him, but also do this with an open mind. Maybe you are the one that's got the mistake. And it's very important that you put your trust in Allah and make istikhara. Sometimes people, they delay sometimes the people don't even pray the istikhara. Sometimes people delay istikhara until later on, when all of that could have been averted from the very beginning. So there is a marry-up between worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Him for guidance and consulting Him subhanahu, as well as speaking to your family members if they have said yes or no. And I would say this is the answer that I have to give for right now. And obviously every situation has to be inspected accordingly, but this is a general blueprint, I would say, as to what would give my advice if the wali and the one he has got guardianship over disagree with one. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it makes it easy for you and all of those people who are in a similar situation. Wallahu a'lam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.